Hello, I'm Dr. Sam Hancock of the Emerald Planet and Emerald Planet TV. We come to you on a week-to-week basis from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we look around the globe in 144 different nations, looking for those 1,000 best practices, the technology, services, and products that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And as we have a planet of 9 billion people by 2038 and possibly 12 to 13 billion by the end of this century, how are we going to be able to take care of all these people on planet Earth? And that's what Emerald Planet's all about. We come to you looking at the solutions, the best practices from around the globe as we create the Emerald Planet. Hello, welcome to the Emerald Planet. We're making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And seeing the long-term impacts of climate change. We're glad to have you. Thank you for being with us.
As we're talking about water and oxygen and the importance for not only humans, but all living beings on planet Earth, it's something we have to be very cognizant of and be truly aware about as far as this balance of oxygen, water, and its availability across the entire planet. And as we go to a planet of 9 billion people, they estimate now by 2038, is that we even need to be more aware of the quality of the water and also the oxygen therein. And we have a gentleman that's been doing research literally all across the globe in very different and difficult places. This is Dr. Luke Javernick. He is the executive director and is also an award-winning river scientist of river science. And Luke, welcome to the Emerald Planet TV.
Thanks, Sam. It's good to be here with you.
Tell us a little bit about this award-winning river scientist. I was very impressed with your bio to read that, and I just couldn't resist having a question about it. So tell us about the award and why are these awards really so important to the work that you're doing?
Yeah, the main award there is the Murray Curie Fellowship Award. It's the European Union's one of their most sought after fellowships, and it brings in researchers from around the world to do really cutting edge research in Europe. And it's a fantastic opportunity for researchers to propose their research, pick their university, and just put together a stellar team to pursue these projects.
Yeah, I think what you're doing is fantastic. Now we're talking about citizen science and river data, and we have these 4 logos here, and you want to give a little special recognition to each one. So here they are. Just tell us very quickly about each of these and why they are so important to the work that you're doing at River Science.
Yeah, so all of these are good partnerships that we have at River Science. The top left is Colorado Parks and Wildlife. We're partners with them to run Colorado River Watch, which is the second logo on the top. And these are citizen science. We call it community science now. Same meaning, but just a bit more inclusive of a term. So if I say community science, that's what I mean. And then the CC down there is the Canyon City High School, which we get a lot of students helping out doing a lot of this community science. And then Anna Branch Solutions is a river restoration firm that we're colleagues with, and we partner up on several things and affiliates and different projects.
Right. I think that's very important to have these collaborations. Talking about these students, why is it so important, Luke, to start even down in the middle school, but definitely high school, to get these students involved? And what are they learning? What life skills are they gaining that's going to carry forward into the future?
Yeah, targeting younger and younger kids to get them interested in science is a great approach. A lot of schools now are kind of doing pathways where these students pick some kind of scientific pathway or arts or others, and they get them kind of tuned into what their interests are earlier. And that hopefully is successful as they go up through high school and they become more engaged with their education. And that's what this program is really good for, Colorado River Watch, is that we get the kids out and actively doing. So it's not just we're not just teaching knowledge, but we're teaching skill sets, and these kids getting out and doing things and seeing things, and that their data is meaningful, it's empowering to these students.
Yeah. And also it's an aptitude and attitude both. It's so important. Looking at the sophisticated maps, what does this actually tell us, but also tell the citizen scientists about their environment and where they are and why the work they're doing, it may be in a microcosm, but yet it's still so critically important.
Yeah, so this map here shows where a lot of the different data is coming in across Colorado from these 90 different volunteer groups of Colorado River Watch. And yeah, these groups are kind of isolated in their own river, but collectively they're helping us monitor the river health across our state. And we've been doing this now, River Watch has been doing this now for 30 years. They've sampled over 60,000 collections, over 500 different streams, creeks, and rivers in Colorado. And it's building this wonderful history and knowledge of our river's health. And then it's helping us keep tabs on when we have issues.
Got it. Now, being upfront and personal, I mean, you can't get any more upfront and personal than this. And they're helping each other. They're very much attuned to what's going on in front of them and taking these samples. How do you think this really translates into when they go home, they're talking with their elders, whoever that may be, and how that may be translating from your citizen scientists out into the greater community?
Yeah, that's a great thing to touch on. First, I'll just say this is up close and personal here, and this picture's pre-COVID days, and hopefully we'll get kids out to not have to social distance so much, but all in good time. But that's a great question about transferring this knowledge. These kids go out, they get really passionate, they see the changes in their river, and they really buy in and care about their own river and their community. But a lot of the conversations happen around the dinner table when people are listening, and they ask their kids what they're learning in school. And when they go home and they talk about this project and how they're out and doing something and the importance of water quality and the importance of our rivers, that's when we're educating beyond the students. And actually, people listen to their kids more so than other adults. And it's a great way to spread knowledge. And of course, these kids go on and grow up and become citizens in our community, and having them have a special place in their heart for river health and stewardship is a huge move for the future.
Yeah. I was raised like this, and actually the river running through the middle of my ranch, not quite as big as this, but almost the same look and feel. And I can, you're here talking about this. I'm looking at this photograph. I can go back to when I'm 5, 6, 7, 8 years old and have these same sensations out there standing in the middle of the North Fork of the Roanoke River and doing a similar kind of thing on my own. Looking at taking these samples back into the laboratory, why is this laboratory research so important?
Yeah, so it's great for the kids and the volunteer groups. They take this data and go back, and they do quite a bit of their own chemistry, which they have a lot of training on, and I can talk about that later. But so these students are doing titrations for different water quality parameters, and they'll do this several times a year. Some of the samples kind of go off to the lab as well, where we have professionals that are highly trained chemists run the laboratory experiments. But this image really shows that these kids are doing real science, and that's a big, our big motto for Colorado River Watch is real people doing real science for a real purpose. And these kids are learning great skill sets.
That's absolutely fantastic. Now, looking at this, what are we looking at here as far as all these samples, and why take so many samples? Won't 2 or 3 or 4 do?
Yeah, well, each sample kind of needs its own how you preserve it, and then how it gets to the lab and how it's processed. And then we'll do different samples throughout the year. We mostly are going to sample basic parameters of the river, like dissolved oxygen and pH. And that's what kids will do back in their school with the proper equipment. But this goes to the lab where they'll run metal analysis, and then different times of year they'll also run nutrient analysis. And this is one of the pictures from the Fort Collins Water Quality Lab that we run in partnership with Parks and Wildlife.
That's fantastic. This is more equipment, and we're really focused on technology in the EmeraldPlanet TV. So quickly, what are we looking at here, and why directly related to water and, as you just mentioned earlier, dissolved oxygen?
Yeah, so this is one of the main pieces of equipment that we have in the lab. This is the ICP, which actually will do the metal analysis. And we also have a latchet that does the nutrients, I believe. And this is all part of how we make this science and this data affordable. By having, like I was saying earlier, that water quality data, having this community science is a real benefit because the students gain so much of it, but the state really benefits too, because water quality data is very expensive. Running labs is expensive. Having people go out and collect is expensive. But this beautiful partnership between the volunteers and the Parks and Wildlife makes this affordable, and having these volunteers makes it scalable to where we can actually get out and get the data that we need across the state.
Yeah, because you're talking about the many different streams and rivers, creeks that you have. That makes it a really tough proposition to go everywhere. More about the technology and the data?
Yeah, this is just different pictures of some of the laboratory equipment that we have in the Fort Collins office. And it's interesting because this is used in part by Riverwatch that does the community science, but this equipment actually gets used by Parks and Wildlife research teams as well. So, one of the things that we try to really push is that we try to message that this is real people doing real science for a real purpose. And the protocols that training goes through for these volunteer groups, how the data is handled in the field, and then how it's handled in the lab are really high standards, and the rigor that goes on, because we want this data to be used and we want it to be respected. And it is. Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment uses this data, and the EPA uses this data as well.
Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. Now, this is really a fantastic photograph. You see all ages, great diversity here. Why is this diversity in having this mix of ages and wisdom and experience so important to the work that you're doing at River Science?
Yeah, it comes back to creating those stewards. Some of the adults in here are teachers that go back and teach it to their schools and lead these programs. Some of these are the students that also become certified in our training. So this picture is one of our training events where typically they run for 4 days. They're very intensive. You're learning all about the chemistry, all about the protocols, and then the last day you'll actually be tested. And if you pass, you get a certificate, and then you go off back to your hometown and you're sampling the river that you care about. And then with the training, we also do quality assurance and quality control, where we'll test the volunteers' knowledge against samples that we know. So once a year, they don't know when, but we actually test them to make sure they're within the right parameters. And that helps us keep our data valid to the EPA and everybody. It's one of our big QA/QCs, but the training's phenomenal, and it's intense, but a lot of people come back year after year because it's a lot of fun as well.
That's fantastic. This is Dr. Luke Javernick, Executive Director, River Science. Thank you for being with us as we create the Emerald Planet.
Thanks, Sam.